The great hall of the neutral star system was filled with ships from many worlds. Massive cruisers from the Zorath Empire hovered like floating fortresses, their silver hulls glowing under the light of twin suns. The proud vessels of the Arvan League stretched for kilometers, their armor shining like polished stone. The fleets of the cairn, with wings of energy stretched across the void, looked more like living creatures than machines. And then came the humans. Their fleet entered the gathering in quiet formation. Compared to the giants of the galaxy, their ships seemed small and fragile. Their hulls were narrow, their engines exposed, and their weapons looked like outdated tools. Many of the alien commanders began to laugh. To them, these new arrivals looked like a child trying to play a game made for kings. On the command deck of the human flagship stood Commander Rian. He was not the tallest man, nor the strongest, but his eyes were sharp and steady. Around him stood his officers, men and women who had left their homes to carry the banner of Earth into the stars. They could hear the laughter echoing through the shared communication channels. Yet none of them answered. The alien council was called to order. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered to decide the future of relations with humanity. The Zorath warlord rose first, his voice deep and filled with pride. "Look at them," he said, pointing a clawed hand toward the human fleet. "They dare to call these metal shells warships. A single blast from one of our cannons could cut them in half. If this is the best they can bring, then they are nothing more than a joke among the stars." Laughter followed his words. The Arvan delegates joined in, their faces glowing with smugness. Even the more peaceful races could not hide their amusement. To them, human design seemed clumsy, unrefined, and hopeless. But Commander Rian did not flinch. He kept his gaze on the council, listening to every insult, every word of scorn. His second officer, a woman named Mara, leaned closer and whispered, "Shall we respond, Commander?" Rian shook his head. "Not yet," he said. His voice was calm, but there was a strength in it that his crew had come to trust. The laughter continued. Some alien leaders suggested that humans should not be allowed to vote in the council. Others claimed that humans would only slow down progress. A few even spoke of keeping Earth under strict control to prevent unworthy fleets from filling the skies. Back on Earth, however, things were different. Engineers had worked day and night to build these ships, not to impress but to survive. Their weapons were not polished for display, but designed for war. Every missile, every cannon, every line of code in their systems had a purpose. Humanity had learned through centuries of struggle that strength was not always in size or beauty, but in willpower and strategy. Rian remembered the faces of those engineers. He remembered the workers who sacrificed rest to finish hull plates, the families who gave their savings to fund the fleet, the young pilots who trained with determination because they believed in a future among the stars. He knew the galaxy did not see that spirit. They only saw weak ships. The council session ended with more laughter and ridicule. The alien fleets departed with banners high, confident that humans would never rise beyond the level of a minor world. Yet as the human ships prepared to return to their station, Rian gathered his officers. "They think we are weak," he said. His eyes moved across the room, meeting each face. "Let them think so. A day will come when the truth will burn brighter than their pride." The officers nodded. They were tired of insults, but they trusted their commander. They knew that their ships, though smaller, were faster and sharper in ways the galaxy did not yet understand. That night, as the human fleet traveled back through the silent void, the crew stared out at the stars. Some felt anger, others felt doubt, but all of them felt the same fire deep inside. Humanity had stepped into a galaxy that laughed at them, but they would not bow. In the quiet of his cabin, Commander Rian wrote in his log. His words were steady and simple. "The galaxy sees weakness. The galaxy laughs. Let them laugh. For every laugh is fuel and every insult is fire. When the time comes, humanity will answer, not with words but with action." Outside, the stars burned silently. They had seen many empires rise and fall. Now they watched the small fleet of humans moving forward, mocked by the great powers, yet carrying a spirit that no laughter could break. And so, the first chapter of humanity's place among the stars began, not with respect, not with fear, but with scorn. What the galaxy did not know was that this scorn would one day be repaid with fire. The gathering of fleets had ended, but the words of mockery spread faster than any signal. Across the stars, commanders and citizens of the great empires shared stories of the fragile humans and their toy ships. To most, it was a joke worth repeating. To some, it was a warning ignored. The Zorath Empire carried the loudest voice. They were old rulers of many systems, and their warlords had no patience for what they saw as weakness. The Zorath warlord, known as Vorak, gave speeches across his empire. He declared that humans were no more than children, and that their entry into the galactic stage was a mistake. In his eyes, humans could not fight, could not endure, and could not command respect. "Look at their ships," Vorak shouted to his people. "Thin armor, exposed engines, weapons that belong in museums. If war came, their fleets would fall before the first wave. They do not understand power. They do not belong among us." The words were repeated in council halls, trading markets, and even taverns on distant mining worlds. Other empires listened and nodded. If the mighty Zorath said humans were weak, then surely it must be true. But on Earth, the laughter of the galaxy did not bring shame. It brought determination. In the shipyards orbiting Earth, engineers and workers carried on with their labor. They heard the voices of mockery carried by the news channels, but their hands never slowed. Every bolt tightened, every engine tested, every missile prepared was done with more focus than before. They were not building ships for the approval of the galaxy. They were building ships to defend their home, their families, and their right to exist among the stars. One such worker, an older man named Joran, spoke to a group of young engineers as they watched a newly finished ship drift from the docks. "Let them laugh," he said with a tired smile. "They laugh because they do not know us. They see small ships, but they do not see the hands that built them. They do not see the spirit inside them. One day the stars will see what we are made of." The young engineers nodded. They too had felt the sting of mockery, but they knew the truth. Human designs were not weak. They were clever. Where alien fleets built massive fortresses, humans built swift hunters. Where empires relied on long traditions of war, humans studied every weakness, every gap, every blind spot. They prepared not to fight like the galaxy, but to fight in their own way. Commander Rian understood this more than anyone. Back on the flagship, he held a meeting with his closest officers. Around the table sat Mara, the second officer Darren, the chief of weapons, and Lynn, the head of navigation. "The galaxy has judged us," Rian said calmly. "They see our ships as weak. They believe we cannot defend ourselves. But what they see is only the surface. They do not know the heart of these ships, nor the heart of the people who serve on them." Mara leaned forward. "Then should we show them, Commander? Should we prove our strength now?" "Not yet," Rian replied. "Timing is everything. Let them believe we are weak. Their pride will blind them. And when the moment comes, their pride will fall before our fire." The officers agreed. Each one of them felt the same fire inside. A fire built from years of waiting, building, and preparing. Far away, in the councils of the galaxy, debates continued. Some leaders suggested that humans be kept out of border disputes, fearing they would only cause problems. Others argued that humans should not be trusted with advanced technology. In the end, most agreed on one thing. Humans were not worth worrying about. That arrogance would become their greatest mistake. In the outer colonies of humanity, farmers tilled the soil of strange new worlds. Miners cut deep into rocks filled with rare metals, and children looked up at alien skies with hope. They did not know that far away warlords were plotting and empires were laughing. They only knew that life was hard, but worth living. Rian visited one such colony during a supply mission. The people greeted him with cheers, not because his ships were mighty, but because they were a symbol of safety. A child ran up to him, holding a small wooden toy shaped like a ship. The boy looked up with wide eyes and asked, "Will our ships really protect us if danger comes?" Rian knelt and placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. "Yes," he said firmly. "They will protect you. They were built for that." The boy smiled and ran back to his family. Rian stood watching the settlers move through their daily work. He knew the galaxy laughed, but he also knew the truth. These people believed in their ships, and that belief was a weapon stronger than any cannon. As the human fleet left the colony and returned to patrol, a message arrived from deep space. A border world had reported strange activity. Zorath ships had been sighted near human space. Many thought it was only a show of power, but Rian knew better. He gathered his officers once more. "The Zorath believe we are weak," he said. "They think a single strike will break us. Let them come. When they do, we will show them that their pride is their weakness. and our strength is hidden in plain sight. And so the spark was lit. The galaxy laughed, but the fire of humanity had already begun to burn. The border colony of Leora was quiet when the first shadow fell across its sky. It was a farming world, rich with green fields and silver rivers. Families worked the land, children played near the rivers, and traders came and went on small ships. Life was simple. Life was peaceful. That peace ended the moment Zorath ships appeared. The sky above Leora burned with the arrival of dark cruisers, massive ships shaped like blades. Their hulls glowed with red markings and their cannons aimed down at the small settlements. The Zorath had come not to talk but to take. The colony sent a desperate call for help. The message reached Commander Rian's fleet, which was patrolling near the edge of human space. When the signal arrived, Ryan stood from his chair at once. "Set course for Leora," he ordered. His voice was calm, but every officer could feel the weight in it. Mara, his second officer, turned in her chair. "Commander, the Zorath outnumber us. Reports say at least 6 cruisers with escorts. We have only 4 main ships in range." Rian nodded. "That is enough. They think we are weak. Let us prove them wrong." The human fleet jumped into the system within hours. Their ships emerged near the colony, small in size compared to the giants waiting for them. At once, the Zorath commander laughed across the open channel. "Humans," the alien sneered. "You send toys to fight our blades. Leave this place and we may let you live." Ryan answered with steady words. "This colony belongs to humanity. If you attack, we will defend it." The Zorath roared with laughter, cutting the channel. Their ships moved into attack formation, confident they would crush the humans in minutes. The battle began. The first wave of Zorath fire lit the sky. Bright streams of energy tore through the void, aiming to shatter human hulls. But the human ships did not stay still. They darted left and right, weaving through enemy fire with speed no alien expected. Their engines, though small, gave them agility that the massive Zorath cruisers could not match. "Now," Ryan commanded. Human weapons came alive. Missiles streaked forward, not in simple lines, but in swarms. Each missile broke apart into smaller seekers, scattering across space and striking at weak points. Energy cannons fired in quick bursts, hitting shields again and again, breaking their rhythm. The Zorath ships faltered. Their shields flickered under the strange patterns of attack. They had fought wars for centuries, but no one had fought like this. The humans did not duel ship against ship. They struck like hunters, hitting fast, then vanishing into the shadows of asteroids and debris. One Zorath cruiser fell in minutes, its engines destroyed by a swarm of human missiles. Another lost control when its shield generator was pierced by a focused barrage. The colony below watched in awe as fire streaked across the sky, not from their fields, but from the clash of fleets above. On the human flagship, Mara smiled for the first time. "They are confused," she said. "They do not know how to fight us." Ryan gave a small nod. "Good, confusion is our weapon. Keep pressing." The Zorath tried to regroup, but every move they made was met with another human trick. Decoys drew their fire into empty space. Ambushes from hidden angles struck their flanks. Even their largest cruiser, a ship feared across the galaxy, found itself surrounded by smaller human vessels that stabbed at its weak points until it collapsed in flames. At last, the Zorath commander realized the truth. His fleet, stronger on paper, was losing. He opened a final channel, his voice shaking with rage. "This is not possible," he shouted. "Your ships are nothing. Your weapons are nothing. How can you fight like this?" Ryan answered with the same calm tone he had held since the beginning. "Because you never saw us clearly. You saw weakness where there was strength. You saw toys where there were weapons. That blindness is your defeat." The channel cut, and moments later the last Zorath ship broke apart under a storm of human fire. Silence filled the system. The colony of Leora, which had braced itself for destruction, now looked to the sky in wonder. The human fleet hovered above, battered but unbroken, their small ship shining in the light of the twin suns. On the flagship, the officers let out a cheer. Mara turned to Ryan. "The galaxy will hear of this, Commander. They will know we are not weak." Ryan looked at the stars beyond the window. "Yes," he said quietly. "They will hear. But their pride is deep and their laughter will not end so quickly. More battles will come. We must be ready." Back on Leora, families rushed from their shelters to watch the ships above. A farmer lifted his child onto his shoulders, pointing at the human fleet. "Look," he said with pride. "Those are our ships. They came for us. Remember this day?" The boy's eyes shone as he stared at the small vessels against the vast sky. For him, and for many others, the battle was not just survival. It was proof that humanity could stand against the giants of the galaxy. The first clash had ended, and the laughter of the Zorath was gone. But in the halls of power across the galaxy, the other empires whispered. Some dismissed the victory as luck. Others felt a spark of unease. For the first time, the stars no longer laughed quite as loudly. The fire had begun. The victory at Leora did not stay a secret for long. News traveled quickly, carried by traders, smugglers, and wandering ships. In every council hall and every spaceport tavern, people spoke of the battle where human ships had defeated the mighty Zorath cruisers. Some laughed it off as rumor, others dismissed it as luck, but the story would not fade. For the first time, the galaxy wondered if humanity was more dangerous than it seemed. The Zorath Empire, filled with pride, could not allow the story to spread unchecked. To admit weakness was to invite rebellion among their own subjects. The warlords declared that Leora was an accident, a rare mistake that would not be repeated. They swore vengeance on humanity and promised to crush every colony that dared resist them. And so, the war began in truth. The Zorath fleet spread like fire, moving against human borders with speed and fury. Their goal was clear: to strike fast, overwhelm the colonies, and silence the rising story of human strength. They believed it would be quick. They were wrong. Commander Rian and his officers knew they could not fight the Zorath in open battles. Human fleets were still small, their resources limited, their technology younger than that of their enemies. But what they lacked in numbers, they made up in creativity. Rian chose not to defend in the way the galaxy expected. He turned the war into something different, something the Zorath could not understand. The first strikes came not against enemy warships, but against supply lines. Small human fleets moved like shadows through asteroid fields and nebula clouds, ambushing convoys of fuel and food. Zorath ships returned to their bases hungry and low on energy. Their strength cut away not by giant cannons but by hunger and delay. In one battle, a squadron of human corvettes lured a Zorath fleet into a dense asteroid field. The enemy cruisers, too large to move quickly, were forced to slow down. From hidden positions, human ships fired and vanished, using the rocks as cover. The Zorath fired blindly, but their weapons only shattered stone. When the fight ended, 3 cruisers floated broken among the asteroids while the human ships slipped away almost untouched. Mara, Rian's second officer, watched the growing list of victories. "We fight differently," she said one evening on the flagship. "They expect us to follow their traditions, but we refuse." "That is why we win," Rian nodded. "Tradition is a cage. They cannot imagine another way to fight, but we can. That is our fire." Soon the stars lit with battles. In every corner of human space, flames of war burned. Colonists watched as their defenders fought not with towering fortresses, but with speed, surprise, and willpower. Each victory brought hope. Each battle proved that humanity was not weak. But war was never clean. Human ships were lost and families grieved. Pilots who had trained for years never returned. Colonies were scarred by fire and attack. Yet even in loss, humans found strength. Every fallen soldier became a reason to fight harder. Every destroyed ship was rebuilt stronger. The galaxy watched with unease. Other empires who had once mocked humanity now studied their battles carefully. The Arvan League, proud of their massive ships, struggled to understand how smaller fleets could outmaneuver giants. The Cairn, who treated war like ceremony, whispered that humans turned battlefields into chaos. Some races long oppressed by the Zorath began to quietly hope. If the humans could resist, perhaps they too could find freedom. The Zorath warlords grew restless. They had planned for a short campaign, but the war dragged on. Each victory, they claimed, cost them more than expected. Each defeat cut deeper into their pride. Their enemies did not fight as they had been taught in their long traditions of conquest. Instead, humans struck from unexpected angles, attacked at night, and vanished into the dark. In one daring mission, Commander Rian led his fleet into the heart of Zorath space. They struck a massive fuel depot orbiting a red star. The battle lasted only minutes, but when the depot exploded, it lit the sky like a second sun. Entire sectors of the Empire fell into chaos as fleets found themselves without fuel. For weeks, the Zorath struggled to recover, and during that time, humanity grew stronger. Back on Earth, the people followed every message, every report. They listened to the names of colonies defended, of fleets returning home scarred but alive, and they lifted their voices together. Workers labored harder in the shipyards. Farmers gave more food for the soldiers. Children played with toys shaped like the ships that fought above the stars. The war, though heavy, united them as never before. Ryan, watching his people grow stronger, spoke to his officers during a rare, quiet moment. "The galaxy thought our fire was small," he said. "But fire spreads. It burns brighter when fed with challenge. This war has given us fire enough to light the stars." The officers understood. They knew the war was far from over, but they also knew that the laughter of the galaxy was fading. In its place came silence, unease, and fear. The war had begun with fire, and that fire was spreading across the stars. The war with the Zorath had burned across many systems, and though humanity had won victories, the struggle was far from easy. The galaxy was vast, the enemy was powerful, and human fleets were small compared to the endless lines of cruisers the Zorath could send. Yet something strange began to happen. Instead of growing weaker under the weight of war, humanity grew stronger. On Earth, the cities glowed with industry. Factories that once built tools for farms now built armor for ships. Shipyards that once worked in silence now roared with fire and sparks as new vessels were forged. Men and women of every background gave their labor to the war effort. Farmers delivered more grain than ever before. Miners cut deeper into the ground for metal, and workers labored through the nights to finish weapons and engines. The spirit of unity was not only on Earth. In distant colonies, far from the homeworld, settlers too joined in. On the desert colony of Orin, water miners turned their transports into patrol ships. On the frozen world of Tyra, workers dug tunnels to hide supplies from enemy raids. Even on small outposts with only a few hundred people, every hand found a task. Humanity no longer thought of itself as divided by planets. They were one people bound by struggle. Commander Rian felt this unity whenever he visited the colonies. In one meeting, he stood before a group of farmers on a frontier world. Their clothes were simple, their hands rough from labor, yet their eyes shone with determination. One farmer spoke for them all. "Commander," he said, "we have little to give, but we give it gladly. Our children must grow in freedom, not under the shadow of the Zorath." Ryan bowed his head. "Your strength is greater than any fleet," he told them. "It is your will that keeps us fighting." The farmers cheered, and though their voices were simple, they gave hope to every soldier who heard them. On the flagship, Mara noticed the change as well. During strategy meetings, she pointed out how every colony seemed to grow braver with each passing month. "They are not afraid anymore," she said. "They know we will fight for them, and now they fight for us too. We are no longer only a fleet. We are a people at war," Ryan agreed. "The Zorath thought they could break us with fear. Instead, they have made us stronger. Every attack brings us closer together. That is a weapon no empire can match." Meanwhile, the galaxy looked on in surprise. Other empires had expected humanity to collapse. Instead, they saw something unfamiliar. When the Zorath struck at one colony, 10 more answered with support. When ships were lost, new ones were built. When soldiers fell, new recruits stepped forward. The cycle of despair that crushed other species did not take root among humans. Their unity grew brighter with every challenge. In one famous battle, the colony of Arden was nearly destroyed. Zorath cruisers surrounded it, their cannons ready to fire. The human fleet rushed to defend it, but they were outnumbered. The battle seemed hopeless, yet the colonists themselves joined the fight. Small transports, cargo ships, even mining vessels armed with whatever weapons they could find, flew into battle beside the warships. Their numbers filled the sky, and though many were lost, their courage gave the fleet a chance. Together, soldiers and settlers drove the Zorath away. The story of Arden spread like fire, proof that every human, soldier or not, was part of the war. Even in sorrow, unity grew. Families wept for lost fathers, mothers, and children, but they did not curse the war. Instead, they whispered that those who fell had given their lives so others could live free. Their grief turned into fuel for the struggle, and their voices demanded that the fight continue. The Zorath could not understand this. In their empire, fear ruled. Colonies bowed to power, not to loyalty. When a Zorath fleet lost, their allies doubted them. When a human fleet lost, their people only grew stronger. It was a difference the Zorath never planned for. On the human flagship, during a rare moment of quiet, Ryan spoke to his officers. "Ships can be built, weapons can be forged, but unity cannot be forced. It must be chosen. Our people have chosen to stand together, and that is why we cannot fall." Darren, the chief of weapons, smiled at his commander's words. "Then the Zorath are already defeated. They fight with numbers. We fight with hearts. In the end, the stronger fire will win." As the fleet prepared for its next campaign, Ryan looked out at the stars. Each one reminded him of a colony, a home, a people waiting for protection. He knew the war would grow harsher. He knew more lives would be lost. But he also knew that humanity had become something the galaxy had never seen before. They were not only a species trying to survive, they were a united force, a fire that spread with every trial. The Zorath had thought to break them with war, but instead, they had given them the greatest strength of all. The struggle had bound humanity together, and now nothing could tear them apart. The Zorath Empire had ruled many systems for centuries. Their fleets were vast, their weapons powerful, and their leaders proud. They believed that no one could challenge their authority. Yet the war with humanity had begun to change everything. Reports came daily to the Zorath High Council. Colonies once thought safe were now defended by small human fleets. Supply lines were disrupted. Transport ships were destroyed or captured. Even minor outposts were armed and ready to fight. The Empire, confident for so long, found itself struggling. The Zorath warlords gathered in a massive hall on their capital world. Vorak, the same commander who had mocked humanity, spoke first. His voice trembled slightly, betraying frustration. "They are everywhere," he said. "We cannot control their borders. They strike fast and vanish before we can respond. Every victory we claim costs more than we expect. This was not supposed to happen." Other leaders murmured agreement. Many had thought that the humans were weak, that their ships were toys. Now they could see that those same ships were weapons unlike any they had faced before. The war they had expected to be short was now stretching across years, draining resources and morale. Meanwhile, Commander Rian and his officers continued their campaigns with careful precision. They did not attack blindly. Each strike was calculated, designed to weaken the enemy strategically. Human fleets targeted fuel depots, communication relays, and supply convoys. Every small victory weakened the Zorath, and each loss taught the humans new tactics. Rian met with Mara, Darren, and Lynn on the command deck. "The Zorath are strong," he said, "but they cannot adapt as we can. Every mistake they make is an opportunity for us. We must be patient and we must strike with precision." Mara nodded. "Their pride is their weakness. They cannot believe that small fleets and simple strategies could defeat them. They think we are foolish. That is why they fail." Darren studied the tactical maps. "We have captured new technology from their destroyed ships. Every victory teaches us more. Soon, we will be stronger than when the war began." Rian smiled slightly. "That is why we fight. Not only to protect, but to learn. Knowledge and courage together are stronger than size alone." The human colonies, inspired by the fleet's success, took a more active role in the war. Farmers trained as soldiers. Miners converted cargo vessels into small gunships. Every citizen found a way to contribute. Even the smallest colonies now posed a threat to the Zorath. In one daring attack, human forces targeted a Zorath communication hub near the edge of the galaxy. The hub controlled dozens of ships across multiple systems. A small strike team of human ships moved through asteroid belts and nebula clouds to reach the hub. The attack was successful, and for weeks Zorath fleets could not coordinate properly. Entire sectors fell into confusion, and the humans moved swiftly to claim strategic points. This was a turning point. The Zorath High Council could no longer assume control. Plans made weeks in advance were disrupted. Fleets ordered to attack one system were drawn into conflicts elsewhere. The Empire, once confident, now reacted to human movements rather than commanding them. Commander Rian, observing the galaxy from his flagship, understood the significance. "The war has changed," he said. "The Zorath are no longer in control. Our fire has spread. Their empire is shaken, and every system they lose teaches them fear." Mara looked out at the stars. "It will take more than pride to win back what they have lost. Humanity will not stop. Every victory, no matter how small, brings us closer to peace." Ryan agreed, "And yet we must remain cautious. They are still powerful. They have resources we cannot match, but they are not unstoppable. The Empire is shaken, and that is our advantage." In the colonies, people celebrated victories quietly. Ships returned home with new crews, damaged but victorious. Families greeted the soldiers with pride. knowing that their sacrifices had changed the balance of power. Children who had once only seen alien fleets on news broadcasts now understood that humans could fight and win. The galaxy, once laughing at human ships, now watched with a mixture of fear and respect. Across distant empires, leaders whispered about the humans' unexpected strength. Some began to reconsider their own strategies. Some wondered if they had underestimated Earth and its people for too long. Ryan stood on the deck of his flagship, looking at the horizon of stars. He knew the war was far from over. The Zorath Empire remained strong, proud, and dangerous. Yet he also knew that humanity had grown beyond expectation. Their fleets were faster, their tactics smarter, and their spirit unbroken. "The galaxy will remember this," Ryan said softly to Mara. "They thought we were weak. They thought we were foolish. Now they know that fire burns in more than just our weapons. It burns in our hearts," Mara nodded, "and they will not forget it." The stars shimmered silently around them. The Empire was shaken but not yet defeated. The next battles would be harder, and the cost would be greater. Still, humanity had proven that even against a mighty power, courage, unity, and determination could turn the tide. The fire of humanity had spread through the galaxy, and the Zorath Empire could no longer ignore it. The laughter of the galaxy had faded. Once, alien fleets had mocked human ships, calling them toys and fragile shells. Once, empires had believed Earth would never survive in space. Now, the silence across the stars spoke louder than any voice. Humanity had proven itself, and the galaxy could no longer ignore it. Commander Rian stood on the deck of his flagship, looking out at the stars. The war had raged for years, and the cost had been high. Ships were damaged, crews were lost, and entire colonies had suffered. Yet the spirit of humanity had not faltered. Each victory, each defense of a colony, had strengthened the bonds between Earth and its people across the stars. Mara, his second officer, joined him. "The galaxy watches us now," she said quietly. "No one laughs anymore. They respect what we have done." Ryan nodded. "Respect is not enough," he said. "They must understand that humans will not bow to threats no matter how powerful. Our strength is not just in our ships but in our people." Across the galaxy, alien leaders sent envoys and messages. Some came in fear, hoping to negotiate or avoid conflict. Others came in cautious curiosity, wanting to understand how humans had turned small fleets into unstoppable forces. Every message was a reminder that humanity had changed the balance of power. The Zorath Empire, once the proudest in the galaxy, had been shaken to its core. Their fleets had been slowed, their supply lines destroyed, and their allies had begun to question their leadership. The warlords who had laughed at humanity now studied every human move, trying to predict tactics that seemed impossible. The empire that once ruled through fear now ruled with caution. Commander Ryan prepared the fleet for a final campaign. The goal was not conquest but peace. Human fleets moved carefully through key systems, liberating colonies and restoring order. Each planet they passed saw ships that were smaller than the Zorath cruisers but faster, smarter, and more precise. They carried supplies, engineers, and soldiers not to destroy but to protect. In one system, a Zorath fleet attempted to reclaim a colony. The humans responded with strategy and speed. Smaller ships ambushed the larger vessels from angles no one expected. Supply lines were cut, engines disabled, and the Zorath were forced to retreat. The story spread across the galaxy. The humans had not only defended themselves, but they had taught the empires that size alone did not win wars. On Earth, children played with models of the ships that had changed the galaxy. They had grown up hearing tales of courage, sacrifice, and clever tactics. Farmers, miners, engineers, and soldiers celebrated quietly, knowing that their work had helped humanity survive. The fires of war had tested them, but they had emerged stronger, united and determined to build a future among the stars. Commander Ryan addressed his officers one last time before a final mission. "The galaxy once laughed at us," he said. "They believed we were weak, but they were wrong. They will remember this day, not because we destroyed their ships, but because we fought with courage, intelligence, and heart." "That is the power of humanity," Mara smiled. "We have done more than survive, Commander. We have shown that humanity can rise against any challenge." Ryan nodded. "Yes, and now the galaxy will listen. They will not forget the fire we have shown. The laughter is gone. The stars are watching." As the human fleet moved through the systems, liberated planets greeted them with cheers. Colonists waved from surface cities and orbital stations. Supplies were delivered, repairs made, and new fleets prepared for the future. Humanity's presence in the galaxy had grown beyond imagination. Even the alien species who had once doubted humans began to see the truth. Across trading halls, diplomatic rooms, and council chambers, whispers spread. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not foolish. Humans had endured the impossible, and in doing so had reshaped the galaxy. The Zorath Empire, humbled and cautious, now spoke carefully. Their commanders, who had once mocked Rian and his fleet, now calculated every move with precision. They studied human tactics, learned from their mistakes, and realized that the galaxy had changed forever. Pride had fallen and respect had risen. In the quiet of his cabin, Rian wrote in his log, "The galaxy once laughed at us. They mocked what they did not understand. Now they see that courage, unity, and cleverness are stronger than pride and stronger than sheer size. Humanity will not be ignored. Humanity will endure. Humanity will rise among the stars." The stars, which had once been silent witnesses to empire and war, now watched a new power with attention. The humans had proven themselves. The laughter had ended. The galaxy had learned that even the smallest fleet, guided by courage and heart, could change the balance of power. And so, humanity stood among the stars, not as weak newcomers, but as a force to be respected. Ships once mocked now inspired hope. Colonies once threatened now flourished. The galaxy had learned its lesson, and Commander Rian, along with the people of Earth, had ensured that humanity would never be underestimated again. The fire of humanity had burned through doubt, fear, and laughter. The galaxy fell silent in awe.